Welcome to Alaska Weather, a production of Alaska Public Media and the National Weather Service, Alaska Region. Produced and broadcast daily from the studios of KAKM, Alaska Weather provides complete forecasts, public, marine, and aviation for all of Alaska. Alaska Weather is made possible by the following sponsors.
Alyeska Pipeline Service Company, fueling philanthropic programs and dedicated to creating educational and professional opportunities for Alaska Native people.
The National Weather Service.
Hello everyone, and thanks once again for joining us for this Saturday's edition of Alaska Weather. On yesterday's satellite imagery, out to the west, a mediocre front or garden variety system out here to the west. The main low back to the farther to the west here from Shimmy on out to the Komodorskis with the colder air. So this just edging its way slowly eastward with southeast flow carrying most of it off to the northwest. High pressure developing over the interior, continuing to hold. A few clouds up crossing the western Arctic coast and actually the north slope, meandering off to the east-northeast and then dropping back down and across the Mackenzie River Delta. Lots of clear skies, sunshine over the interior, right down to the Gulf of Alaska, eastward across the northern panhandle. And then there's a upper level thing down here southwest of the Queen Charlotte's that's circulating some moisture and showers into the southern part of the panhandle down there, but better conditions up to the north today. And we got a push of colder air coming down with high pressure over the western interior. You can see it's kind of pushed the front, offshore flow here, pushed this front back to the west a little bit, keeping the Pribilof Islands there on the back edge of it. And then clouds and rain on down across Unalaska Island, eastward into at least half of the Alaska Peninsula. Cloudy skies there for Kodiak, and pretty gusty winds up along the Arctic coast, strongest on the east side, with gusts anywhere from 40 to possibly as high as 50 miles an hour at times today. And lighter back to the west, but still pretty gusty. And gales in the forecast up there for the next couple of days, at least along portions of the Arctic coast. And then the showers down here over the southern southeast coast. Otherwise, this front really weakening and having not moved a whole lot from yesterday's position, just has become narrower and weaker, and a fair amount of clearing behind that. So pretty nice conditions today. Nikolsky on out to Adak, and in the colder air, showers out toward Shimia, and a little bit gustier winds as well. And rolling that through again, you can see high pressure developing here, mostly over the western interior. So that's pushing this back to the west a little bit, definitely directing it all to the northwest and allowing a disturbance to come down out of the Arctic. Actually a very strong surface high up there off the near the pole, actually centered northwest of Banks Island, and a tight gradient there. Northeast winds, again, pretty strong here along the Arctic coast, especially the eastern Arctic coast, and a more north to south push here aloft coming into the northeast interior. And kind of a band right through here. Could be a few flurries or snow showers associated with that, say the mountains possibly north of Fairbanks there, the White Mountains, and then really not much up until you get up to the coast there. And there's some areas of IFR with the fog, flurries, and even blowing snow showing up in the observations there. But winds pretty gusty up there along the coastline. And by contrast, not much in the way of wind here over the southern interior, right into the Gulf of Alaska. High pressure, 1,021 millibars over the southern Gulf. And a breeze is about all you could call it here for the Alaska Peninsula, with periods of light rain, cloudy skies out to, again, about the Dutch Harbor, Unalaska area, clearing out to the west, and weak system down here to the south. Mostly the snow showers and the colder air, especially back out to the west. And for tonight, that front edges its way eastward just a little bit there, not a whole lot, keeping the chance of rain possibly there across St. Paul and St. George Island, definitely across the Alaska Peninsula, but beginning to dry out a little bit there for Unalaska. And some moisture in southeast flow here might spread up to southern Kodiak Island, AKwx, Sitkinak, chance of some rain, mostly cloudy skies. From there northward, variably cloudy to mostly clear, a few clouds here over south central Alaska. Mostly to the east here, could be a few snow showers or rain or snow showers, probably mostly snow showers overnight for the eastern Alaska range. Nothing significant though, but flying conditions will be lower on the north side of the mountains up there. Tightening gradient here, so look for the winds to increase as well. And back up to the northwest, light winds to the south, and winds stay pretty gusty on the Arctic coast there. You can see the high, 1,048 millibars, pretty strong, and the lower pressure to the south, and those winds will continue to blow up there for the next couple of days. Otherwise, high pressure over the northern panhandle, as weak as it is, mostly again clouds and showers caused by an upper level disturbance signified by a very weak surface low just west of the Queen Charlotte Islands. And showery conditions unsettled. That'll continue tonight and into tomorrow as well. And for tomorrow, that system holds out here, but the southeast flow keeping it in place, but really weakens. Just a trough now, areas of rain or snow becoming just plain rain, especially for the Alaska Peninsula southward there. And maybe a little bit of light mixed precipitation and across the Kilbrook Mountain areas, otherwise dry over all of the interior. And the coldest temperatures to the north there, this trough axis. Gusty winds continue on the Arctic coast. Could be some areas of low clouds and fog up here as well, but basically looking at good high pressure and mostly clear skies. And then on the upslope areas of the Alaska range here, look for clouds, maybe some showers, snow showers, Northway, Tok, possibly back to about Delta. And then south of the mountains, VFR, Sunshine, Copper River Basin, south central Alaska again. Maybe some clouds here developing along the western and actually central Alaska range. Maybe some flurries, but nothing, really nothing to mention. South of the mountains, though, it'll remain sunny right into Prince William Sound, and still a chance of some showers here for the central and southern southeast coast. So really not much change tomorrow from what you've seen today. And moving on to, well, out west, a warm front pushing northeastward there will catch the western Aleutians, and then a little bit stronger feature will show up out there on Monday. And that could bring some, definitely in the increase in the southeast winds there, possibly as high as gale force. Narrow ridge right across the central Aleutians, so that's going to be a very light variable wind day here for Adak and Atka. Maybe a few breaks in the clouds. Looks like a lot of moisture out there. Best chance of seeing any sun would be over toward the Nikolsky Dutch Harbor area. And we still have this trough here stuck right across the Alaska Peninsula. So a couple of more wet days, cloudy, wet days, unsettled, possibly up to southwest Kodiak Island. Still looking at a risk of some showers over the southwest interior and Nunivak Island. But some of that might catch St. Lawrence Island as well. Basically light winds here from the Chukchi Sea all the way down to the Alaska Peninsula. And then again, just possibly coming up to gale force out here to the west. And winds still looking on Monday 30 to 35 knots out of the east on the eastern Beaufort Sea coast. Brisk wind advisories out to the west there. High pressure actually settling a little southward but weakening, and the gradient slackening off as well. Still looking a little gusty, especially through the mountain passes here over the southeast interior, mostly from the Alaska range northward a ways. And trough hanging in over this panhandle again. Kind of moisture rotating northwestward. That's going to keep the shower chances in over the southern areas and mostly cloudy to the north, possibly mostly sunny. Haines, Yakutat in across Prince William Sound, as well as south central Alaska, just a few passing clouds, and that's about it, right into the Kuskokwim Valley areas. And temperatures this afternoon across the panhandle in the mid-40s to lower 50s, 49 there at Annette and 52 at Petersburg, Skagway up to 49, 47 over at Yakutat, about the same in Cordova. Mid-50s, Palmer, 55 degrees, 54, Kenai, 48 at Homer, 42 degrees down at Kodiak, and Gulkena up to 50 degrees even today. And the Tanana Valley, Fairbanks struggling to reach 40, 39, 46 at Delta, and a 34 back at Tanana. Fort Yukon, 31 degrees, couldn't quite get above freezing at least through 4 p.m. over there. A little above freezing at Bettles, and then back down to 28 at Anatuvik with a little more elevation. Temperatures along the Arctic coast, all in the teens, coldest on the east side where the winds were the strongest, and even Point Lay at 12 above, and then mid to upper 30s here, Kotzebue Sound, northwest interior across the Seward Peninsula. 50s, 52 at McGrath, to 55 at Sleepmute, a nice 55 degrees this afternoon at Bethel, 34 Savunga, and lower to mid-30s along the southwest coast north of Kuskokwim Bay. The Pribilofs right around 40 this afternoon, lower 40s central Aleutians, and 37 in the colder air out there at Chimia, some showers of rain or snow. On Alaska, 40 degrees, upper 30s Alaska Peninsula, warming to 51 at King Salmon. And for the lows tonight, dropping into the lower 30s here for Bristol Bay, mid to upper for the peninsula, mid 30s for the Aleutians, upper 20s St. Lawrence Island, and 30s to 20s to teens here as you head northeast into the interior to right around 20 through the Tanana Valley. Brooks Range on out to the Arctic coast, maybe 0 to 10 below in that range, and 30s to near 40 for the Panhandle. Excuse me, for the highs tomorrow, 40s to near 50 again here in the Kuskokwim Valley, as well as the Susitna Valley. Could see some lower 50s there as well, otherwise in the 40s. North of the mountains, cooler, still up to 41 at Fairbanks, but only barely, not even getting above freezing here over the Yukon Flats, on up to the Arctic coast there with lower teens in the forecast, and mostly in the 50 to 55 degree range for the Panhandle. And for flying weather tomorrow morning, a band of IFR associated with that nearly stationary front southward St. Matthew Island, just catching the Pribilofs on down again across Unalaska Island, breaking out to the west, marginal stuff out to Shimia, and some marginal VFR up along the east side of Kodiak Island into the Gulf of Alaska with some lower cloud conditions here. And then on the north side of the eastern Alaska Range, also some marginal VFR with that southward moving moisture. Southern Panhandle with the clouds and showers, also marginal IFR, eastern Arctic coast. Not much change through tomorrow. Marginal VFR there from the central coast eastward with some areas of IFR remaining. And looks like good VFR for tomorrow afternoon, Kodiak Island. Along and off the coast there, still clinging to the Prince of Wales Island area, maybe as far east as Metlakatla. Otherwise, we've got VFR back to the coast here with marginal VFR, Nunivak Island. And still that band of IFR edging eastward a little bit there, but hanging in over the Alaska Peninsula and spreading into St. Lawrence Island and marginal farther to the west. Passes shaping up like this, Anatuvik and Anigan, both VFR once again. And Lake Clark and Merrill, VFR, same forecast for rainy, windy. Marginal VFR, possibly, maybe some marginal VFR, possibly marginal on the northern approach, and that same forecast holds for Isabel and both Mentasta with possible marginal VFR in the north side, otherwise looking good. And for Tanita, VFR, Portage, VFR, and Chilkoot and White, VFR. Freezing levels, 2,000 feet here up over the St. Lawrence Island area. Eastward there into the northern Yukon Delta, and also down here over the Alaska Peninsula. Again, the southeast flow associated with that, keeping those warmer conditions in that area. And then 2,000 feet across the north central southeast coast. And for icing, areas of possibly here for the Alaska Peninsula, northwestward to St. Matthew Island, and that'll be mostly east of the Pribilofs to possibly Makoriak. And areas of mixed icing, light, possibly here. That's the best chance that, if it occurs at all, it'll be in these shaded areas tomorrow. And it doesn't look like it'll be all that significant. So moving on to the jet stream, big upper level high here, along with a surface high up over the Arctic, or just south of the Arctic. Easterly flow along the Arctic coast, keeping those surface winds going. Southeast flow here, maybe up to 50 knots with the main jet well to the south of our area, kind of ridging up over the western Aleutians. And for 9,000 feet, really strong winds up here on the Arctic coast across the north slope, 25 to 50 knots up there, then kind of breaking, dropping back to 15 or 10 to 15 for the Berks Range, picking up again south of the mountains, 25 to 40 knots, and then dropping off again from the Alaska Range southward to the Gulf of Alaska, maybe 25 knotters there across the Alaska Peninsula, light winds Gulf of Alaska and the Panhandle, as well as out west over the Aleutians. And for 3,000 feet, excuse me, 30 to 40 knot winds here, possibly along the eastern Beaufort Sea coast, and then that other band of strong easterlies there south of the Brooks Range on out across Kotzebue Sound up to 35 knots. Lighter, more variable southern Alaska right on down the southeast coast. Could see maybe up to 35 knots coming across the Aleutian Range or in across Bristol Bay, and then dropping back to 25 for the southwest coast, and then some northwesterlies coming in, maybe 25 knots across the Fox Islands. Higher pressure, lighter winds out to the west. And turbulence-wise, moderate chop here, north central interior, just south of the Brooks Range, eastward across the Chukchi Sea, and then also with the continuing windy conditions up along the Arctic coast. Really not too significant here for the Alaska Peninsula or Eastern Aleutians. And after the break, I'll be back in the marine forecasts.
The 70 nautical mile trip to Skagway from Juneau is fairly straightforward. One noteworthy item is the lack of beaches in the area. The slope of the mountains continues to the bottom of the canal, causing small rocky outcroppings in most areas. There are a couple of small dirt strips located at Glacier Point and Endicott on the west side and Katsahine on the east side. Flying up the Lynn Canal to Taya Inlet is the preferred route to Skagway. The Lynn Canal has several prominent reporting points that are used by the local operators and private pilots.
Second 63 Foxy Islander, the departure end is headed for Portland Island, runway 26, cleared for takeoff. 63 Fox from. Good day, Roger, taxi into position for the
After departing Juneau to the west, you should fly to the right side of Lynn Canal, close to the land mass. Utilize the hemispheric rule for determining your flying altitude. The first prominent departure reporting points are Lena Point, T Harbor, Eagle Beach, and Benjamin Island. Next, you will approach Berners Bay, Bridget Point, and Echo Cove, which will be to the right. After passing Berners Bay, Point St. Mary's is the next reporting point. Keep in mind, Berners Bay is important as a reporting point. Most poor weather conditions for the Lynn Canal are generated in this area. Adiabatic winds descending from the ice fields to the north of Berners Bay can create fog or turbulence depending on the temperature dew point spread. Tour operators will normally report Sherman Point on the other side of Berners Bay and Eldred Rock Lighthouse. Sullivan Island is to the left. The canal splits at this point, with Chilkat Inlet leading to Haines to the left, while Chilkoot Inlet bears right to Skagway.
Sherman Harbor 1004 Haines.
Continuing to follow the shoreline to the right, the canal splits again, forming Lutak Inlet to the left, which is a dead end. On the right is Taya Inlet, which takes you to Skagway. Once in Taya Inlet, report Taya Point and fly to the left side of the inlet to conform with prevailing traffic in the area. When approaching Skagway, be alert for tour operators in the area and for helicopter traffic departing and arriving at Skagway. The traffic pattern is at 1,000 feet with right-hand traffic for runway 19 to avoid the town of Skagway. It will appear that the pattern is close to the mountain, and it is. You will find that you are quite close to the trees on the downwind.
Approach Skagway.
A close-in base turn around the water tanks to almost immediate final is needed to avoid overshooting the final approach. This is a tight, narrow canyon that consistently generates turbulent winds in the pattern and on the runway. Be aware that there is a bridge with automobile and truck traffic at the end of the final approach end for runway 19. The bridge is used as a final reporting point. There's a school to the left of the runway just beyond the bridge that must not be overflown. Since the runway is narrow and 3,700 feet long, it gives the appearance that you must land on the approach end numbers in order to stop by the end of the runway.
Welcome back. We'll look at light winds to no wind on the south coast, really light southeast breeze on up the coastline, turning a little more easterly. Really variable at 10 here, forecast for the entire southeast coast here, with the seas only 3 to 4 feet. Light winds over the interior or inside waters as well, north 10 knots from Stevens Passage up to Northern Lane Canal. Then on, well, actually tomorrow night and into Monday, those winds pick up to small craft advisories with winds coming up to 25 knots there for Lynn Canal and even up to 20 knots for Stevens Passage. Northwest 15 for Clarence Strait. Northerlies 15 to 20 here along most of the coast, but down to 10 knots on the north side. Seas still pretty good at 4 to 5 feet. And for Prince William Sound and the North Gulf Coast, light variable winds tomorrow, 10 knots or less, seas just 2 to 3 feet. And actually that extends down across the Barren Islands and on up across Kachemak Bay, southeast at about 20 for Kodiak along the east side, seas just 6 feet. And east 15 here for Shelikof Strait with light winds for Cook Inlet becoming south in the afternoon. And so small craft advisories are non-existent in these zones for tomorrow. And then for Monday, same thing, no small craft advisories, just a little bit more of a breeze here. Northerlies of 15, Kachemak Bay, Shelikof Strait, up the east side of Kodiak into the Barrens. Northeast 15, south of the Forelands, but northern Cook Inlet, light variable winds at 10 knots. Northwest now, still 10 knots there, forecast for Prince William Sound. Light variable winds for the next 2 days there for the North Gulf Coast. And Bristol Bay, small craft advisories. Actually, small craft advisories for all these zones, east-southeast 25, seas 5 to 9 feet. And then for Monday, northeast winds, 15 to 20 for the peninsula, coming down a little, northeast 20, Bristol Bay, east 25, 7-foot seas there, Sitkinak to Castle Cape. For the Aleutians, Fox Islands, northwest, 15 to 20 knots, seas 7 to 10 feet. And not too bad in the winds here for Adak and Atka, and then just 20 knotters on out to the west. Then for Monday, it looks like it comes up to just 25 knots in the forecast with 10-foot seas, southeast 20 over toward Adak, light westerlies here through the central Aleutians, and northeast to north, 15 to 20. For the southwest coast, 25-knot winds, strongest south of Nunivak Island, dropping back to 15 for St. Lawrence Island, northwest 20 for the Pribilofs with 9-foot seas. Those go north, drop down to 15 knots on Monday, northeast of 15, St. Matthew Island. Otherwise, easterlies 15 to 20, St. Lawrence Island, all the way down across Kuskokwim Bay. And for the Arctic coast, 25 to 35 knot easterlies, just about the entire stretch of the coastline, but from Cape Beaufort 20 knots, and then back to brisk wind advisory south of there. And for Monday, coming down a little bit, still holding on to 20 knots here from Wales up to Cape Beaufort, and then 15 knots, even lighter there on the western coast, back up to 20 in the central, 20 to 25 now. So downward trend definitely kicking in Sunday night and Monday up there on the east side. And then for tonight, staying windy though, the entire stretch of the way up there, just like today. Maybe some flurries there, mainly western north slope. Actually, those could persist even along the east side too. But tightening gradient here over the interior, north of the Alaska Range. So look for a little bit more wind there. Maybe some light rain or snow showers, mostly in the form of snow with any elevation at all there along and north of the Alaska Range. Otherwise, scattered showers continue mostly central southern southeast coast. And this weakening front being held in place here and directed northwestward. Big upper level high, and then the easterly flow on the south side of that 1,048 millibar low. Scattered showers out over the Aleutians. Tomorrow, same story here, just a weaker system with best chance of rain along the Alaska Peninsula, just grazing the southwest coast. Chance of snow showers north side of the eastern Alaska Range. No change for the Panhandle. Next incoming system, again, just 25 knot winds, maybe up to 30, but 25 in the forecast heading out west. Moisture still along that boundary there. Again, with the heaviest amounts over the Alaska Peninsula, and those heaviest amounts really won't be all that much. The interior, mostly clear and coldest up to the north. Maybe a few flurries over the eastern Alaska Range. Thanks for
These forecasts are to be used for planning purposes only. Call 1-800-WX-BRIEF for a formal pre-flight briefing. Always file a flight plan before you go flying. The U.S. Coast Guard Auxiliary urges you to leave a float plan with a friend or the harbor master before you go boating. Alaska Weather is made possible by the following sponsors.
The National Weather Service.